Oh. Nope. Can't hear you. Nope. You're muted.
I did it again.
It's all good.
I got really invested in that video.
There were so many backflips and
So many backflips.
split leaps. Is that what they're called?
Well, sure. Yeah.
You're the dancer, not me. So
Hello,
go ahead.
and welcome back to My Favorite Flop After the Bows, episode 3.
The third one.
Third. It's crazy.
Three
Can
of
you
them.
believe it? We've done 3 of them. It's insane.
That's crazy.
I know. Well, I am Kristina Miller-Weston.
And I am Bobby Traversa. And tonight we are back live on After the Bows on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. There might be one person watching there. And we are following up on the last episode of our podcast, My Favorite Flop, which was, it's everywhere. And it was all about the show that we're talking about tonight. I think you're supposed to say something.
7 Brides for 7 Brothers. And you can find it anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So that could be Apple Music, Google Play. You can find it on iHeartRadio now because we so fancy. We so fancy.
Oh, yeah. Well, and in that episode, which if you haven't listened to it yet, make sure that you do and you subscribe and you click that little button in Apple Podcast. Really important. Leave us a 5-star review because
go now. We'll wait.
Or right after the episode. It's all good.
No? Okay.
But we have guests. We have guests waiting, Kristina, right?
Right. Of course. I'm sorry. My bad.
So obviously tonight we're talking about 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, which was a hit movie and is an extremely popular title regionally, but flopped on Broadway in 1982. We have to make that distinction.
Yeah, it did. So tonight we're really excited because we actually have 2 guests.
Two.
I know. 2. All the numbers today. We've got 2, 3, and 7. Who knew?
More numbers.
But tonight we're really excited because we actually have 2 guests. They were in 2 different productions of 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, but both got to work with Patty Colombo, and
who is like key to the legacy of this show surviving.
Completely. It is her baby. And so we're really excited to announce Ashley Anderson, who performed in La Mirada / McCoy Rigby's 2013 regional production. And then we have Trevor Illingworth, who appeared in arguably the most major post-Broadway U.S. revival in 2005 at Goodspeed Opera House. So welcome, Ashley and Trevor!
Welcome!
Hi,
How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing well. Excited to be here.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
It's so lovely to have you both. Okay, so we should probably just jump in. Should we jump in? Let's
jump in.
I think we should jump in.
Okay, great. Bobby, over to you.
Yeah, it's over to me, except for my questions are not complete. So it's over to you while I pull up my questions again.
Sounds good. Okay, so our first question is Trevor.
Yes.
The Goodspeed revival of 7 Brides was really the first time this show would be considered successful post-Broadway. Can you tell it a little? Well, yes. Let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us about how you became familiar with the show, the story, and got involved with Goodspeed.
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California. I got my BFA in musical theater from Cal State Fullerton. I'm definitely more of a dancer first of all the aspects of performing. I guess dancing is my strongest suit. And when I was at school, I glommed on to my dance teachers the most. And one of them was Lara Teeter, who happened to be in the original production back in, 82. So he played Caleb. So,
oh, wow.
That's a funny little tidbit. But as far as me knowing anything about the show, I really did not know much about 7 Brides. It wasn't one of the movies that I grew up with.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Singing in the Rain, My Fair Lady, all those sort of other classics, Rodgers and Hammerstein, but 7 Brides was not one of those. So after being on the road for about 2 years and out of work, Goodspeed came along and they were auditioning, and I was like, well, I think I fit that show. So I went and auditioned, and bing, bing, bang, boom. There I was. I got it. So, and Goodspeed has such a great reputation because it's like a 3.5 month run. So if you can get that gig, it's a great gig to have. So
Amazing.
that's sort of a roundabout sort of way how I got into it and where I came from and all that good stuff. So,
So now within being in the show at Goodspeed, what was that process like? Did they talk about changes they were making from the original script? What was that about?
yeah, we showed up and we all knew that it was going to be a sort of revised version. But a lot of the work had been done before we had even arrived as far as the script and the music work went. So we were handed a script. We knew full well that things could change, music as well. But as far as being a part of the whole adjusting of things, we weren't really privy to a lot of that. The big things were trying to seam the show together to make more of a narrative arc, because a lot of the characters are very archetypal. They're very just, there's Adam and there's Millie who are kind of the predominant leads, and everyone else is just sort of, there's the brothers and they're the wives and they're the suitors. So it was all trying to flesh them out more. And I think the biggest problem they had, at least from my perspective, was that they wanted to create an opening for the show, because the show doesn't have an opening. It just opens with "Bless Your Beautiful Hide."
Right.
And it's like, oh, it's very jarring, and all of a sudden here you are, and Adam's walking around being very chauvinistic and just sort of demanding all these things of these women. And so they wanted to sort of set up the whole pioneering spirit.
So you guys got an opening number, right?
Well, yes, it changed a lot with, that was the biggest thing that they worked on, was we spent a lot of time trying to create this opening, and it morphed and morphed and morphed. And by the time we got into the theater, it had been cut back down to not much. But it was neat to be a part of a process where they were just exploring everything and then seeing how they could just give some sense of an opening. And so we started with this sort of like westward expansion, moving towards Oregon. They wrote some music of us that sounded like wind, and they kind of wanted to give it that sort of some sort of a setting and tone. So
sure.
Nice.
So did you get
successful? And hopefully they keep working on it, because I think there's something there. So
did you get to work with? Did members of the original creative team come to Goodspeed, like the songwriters, Al and Joel? Did they work on that with you guys or with the production?
They worked on the production. I did not see them. They were never introduced to me. Maybe to our leads.
Sure.
Them, but not that I.
But they were involved in some fashion. It wasn't.
Absolutely, I think.
Okay, cool.
The show even went into production, they had worked with Goodspeed and the people there, and yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Kristina, you can just continue with your question, and I'll pick back in.
I'll continue with my question. So, Ashley, obviously your production was 8 years later from the Goodspeed revival. And there had been a bunch of stuff that had happened since in US, and then the UK production, which we saw a clip of earlier. So how did you get involved with it? How familiar were you with the show when it came to La Mirada, and what drew you to it?
So I did know this musical from like growing up. I watched the movie. My little brother, it was hilarious. He hated watching musicals, but it was the only one he would let us watch at home because the boys like fought, challenge, dance, and he thought it was cool. So we watched it a lot at home growing up. So I knew the like movie version really well. And I had actually like just moved out to California when La Mirada was auditioning for it. And so I was like, oh, cool. I was like, I'm going to audition. I think similar and a musical theater performer, I'm an AMDA alum. And and so I just went in and auditioned, and I booked Alice, and the rest is kind of history. It was a really fun and fast and furious it was almost the opposite experience, I feel like, as Trevor, because we put it up in like 8 days. We were 8 days in the rehearsal hall, and then we were in the theater like doing tech the next 2 days, and then we had an audience. It was so fast and furious, but Glenn and Patty had done it so many times at that point that they were just kind of like, okay, let's do this. We're going to like teach you guys as fast as we can, and we're going to have an audience, and it's going to be fun. And we were like, okay, cool. But yeah.
Wow. 8 days to learn all of those dances.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that's so insane. This is unscripted, but like Yeah, Trevor, you worked with Patty, I think, as she came up with this choreography that you
Mhm.
probably learned 8 years later, Ashley. So by that point, Patty had done it everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So she probably is just like, okay, let's just do it. Let's do
Yeah,
the
she
choreography at
knew
that point.
exactly. She barely even really like she would come in and like clean it up, but Carl Warden actually kind of taught the majority of
Right.
it to us because he had done the production a number of times with Patty, and so he kind of just came in, taught
Did
us
it with you
Fast and
too, right?
Furious.
Yeah, he was in the Goodspeed production. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, he
and
was?
so,
Yeah.
Awesome.
yeah,
We've
so
all
he,
worked with Carl.
yeah, we love Carl. Carl's awesome.
Good guy.
But yeah, it was like I remember Patty would come in and she would like there was one day where our entire morning block of rehearsal was just the challenge dance, and I just will never forget Patty coming in and going, "We're doing it full out as many times as you can," and we were like, "What?" And by the time we got to lunch, like all of us dancers just like laid on the ground and just we didn't even eat. We were just so like dead from dancing so hard, but yeah, it was such a fun production.
I
Yeah,
love
old
that.
school, you don't mark.
No, you
You hit it
don't.
and you go.
Yeah.
And you need to build up your stamina. The challenge dance is that.
Yeah. What isn't it like 7 or 8 minutes long or something? It's
Oh, yeah,
insane.
it's
Yeah.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
well, piggybacking on that, so it's interesting that we have you both with the same choreographer doing different productions, but Seven Brides for Men is very different than Seven Brides for Women, right? So, because you're Alice, so you're one of the brides, right?
Yeah.
And you understudied brothers, correct? Trevor.
correct.
So you had to learn all of that choreography anyway. We'll ask you both. We'll start with Trevor. What do you feel? Do you think it's hugely different from the guy tracks or the girl tracks in the show? Because it is such a male heavy show. Do you think that it's harder for the men than it is for the women? Or I don't know. Let's start there.
Well, the men it's very aerobic, very athletic, a lot of tricks.
Sure.
If you have tumblers in the show, they'll be tumbling. They have the axe jumps. There's a lot of tossing of the girls, so you need a lot of strength and power.
Right.
But with that, you also need a lot of technique because there's also a lot of ballet that's required of the men, especially in the spring ballet.
Right.
So I think it serves to everyone's strengths, to the women and the men, for what they're capable of. And
Sure.
but the women have to be just as aerobic and just as athletic because they're getting thrown all over the place and they're hoeing down too. So
In petticoats.
in petticoats and the dresses. Those dresses are not light. So
did you find that the fact that there were so many different styles that you had to utilize in a production like Seven Brides, was that attractive to you as a dancer performer? The fact that you got to do a little tumbling, you got to do a little ballet, you got to do not a little, you got to do a lot of all these things in the show.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, the more shows that you can showcase what you have to offer is all the better. It's like I compare it to sort of West Side Story, where there's that
Sure.
sort of tension in the show between the suitors and the brothers and the daughters. So you also can build off of that, and it's just so much fun.
Right.
And same in West Side Story. There's that you need the ballet, you need the athleticism.
Oh yeah. I mean, you have to have everything in that
Yeah.
show. You can't. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, so Ashley, from the female perspective,
I mean, it was definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so, I don't know if the women do tricks in that show so much as you do get thrown around a lot, right?
Yeah, we get thrown around a lot. Like in the challenge dance, particularly, you're constantly being physically tossed from one male dance partner to the next male dance partner. So it is definitely like one of the more athletic, physically demanding shows I've ever done. But I would still say, I think that the brothers' tracks in general are just, I mean, they don't really leave the stage often. And when they do, it's for very short periods of time while Millie has a solo or Adam has a solo, and then the brothers are back on. So I would say like the brothers' tracks in general are incredibly demanding, physically, vocally. It requires a lot of stamina. And then, I do think that anybody in the cast you got to be in the tip top shape of your life, because the dancing, I would say, like especially in Patty's production, I'm like, the challenge dance is definitely like the biggest, longest, hardest dance, but like the spring ballet is equally as athletic. And like Trevor was saying, like you have to have that ballet foundation. And yeah, it was definitely one of the more demanding shows I've ever done physically.
So as a performer, as a dancer, as also somebody who works in fitness, was that attractive to you? That you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't have to work out because I'm doing Seven Brides, right?
Yeah, it's funny because throughout the like 8 days of rehearsal, they like kept having to take in our costumes because all of us were just like shedding pounds.
Oh.
We weren't necessarily trying to lose any weight. We were just dancing so hard and for so many hours in rehearsal that like I just remember I kept going into the like wardrobe people and being like, can you take this in again? Because I like it's slipping and then the boy's not like can't catch me because it's not tight on my waist. And but yeah, it's one of those kind of shows. But but yes, it was definitely something that I love about it. And yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, and there's the baby. Hi, August.
No, my baby is not happy that I'm not putting him to sleep tonight.
Oh man, we're so happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to do it. So quick shout outs, Ben, Amy, and Scott. Thank you so much for being here and listening and watching. Keep commenting, ask questions if you want. Okay, so we kind of touched on it a little bit because you were talking about how athletic the show is. What are your favorite, like, what's your favorite number to do? Is it the challenge dance? Is it, Trevor, you go first.
Yeah, for me, definitely the challenge dance. It's sort of the climax of the show. It's sort of people who know the show are coming to see the challenge dance. I think it's such a crowd pleaser, and it's so amazing because if you have a really awesome cast, they can really chuck those girls, and it's so thrilling.
Yeah,
it's really thrilling. So, and to do it, it's just exhilarating. So,
I bet, and the audience is probably just screaming too, right?
Oh yeah, they can get that rambunctious, definitely.
I mean, people love this show, so like I imagine if the higher you're swinging at everybody, the more excited the audience is getting about it.
Yeah. And Ashley, you, which one?
Well, I don't know if this happened to you guys, Trevor, in your production, but after the challenge dance, we would get a standing ovation, and it's like in the middle of an act. It's not even like the end of Act 1. It's just like a random number in the middle of the musical, and we would get standing ovations and be like, the girls are like in the boys' arms, and the boys would be like holding us for like a solid 2 minutes, waiting for the audience to stop cheering. But Patty was like, "You will not put those girls down until they stop clapping." And it always felt so bad. I was like, "Sorry, male partner that's holding me up now after an 8-minute long dance."
It's all built into the dance. It's just part of the dance. You gotta hold it. Yeah.
It definitely was like such a fun number to do. But I also love the spring ballet. I loved doing that piece too.
And that's a nice moment to especially see the brothers and the bride sort of navigating their relationships, and to give them some moments too, because it's so Adam and Millie focused. And Alice Gideon, but
and it's not called Adam and Millie the musical. It is called Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Yep.
7. So I totally already asked my next question, so I'm going to ask another one real quick because whatever. So I know that a hot thing, that not hot, but like a contested thing about Seven Brides, because there are different versions of it. And the version that opened on Broadway isn't the same as the one that you guys did. And you may not have even done exactly the same version as each other either, because it's been revised so much. But one song that everybody wishes is in their production when they get cast, everyone I know who's done the show, is Lonesome Polecat, which is in the film iconically with the axes, but it wasn't on Broadway. And for a long time, you weren't allowed to do it. MGM didn't let you. Did you guys get to do it in your production?
I
honestly
think I did.
I was like, I believe it was in there. The that one.
We definitely did that. It was
it was in there with like a nice little axe ballet.
Little axe ballet, right?
Yeah.
Like
casual.
We're like swinging an axe and then doing a pirouette, and it's
you're bringing back the memory. It's been so long since I did it, but yes, we did do that. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh my gosh, we have
so many fun questions. Okay, so here's a fun question. Since you guys have done it, we know that they're revising it for the Muni coming hopefully this summer. And they're working with the original Broadway book writer, which is amazing. And he reached out to us and let us know that it was happening. And they're trying to change it again because of Me Too and some of the things that are problematic with the chauvinism. So what do you guys, now that you've done it and you've been away from it for a little while, but you still have such an affinity for the show, do you think that do you have ideas about how you would adjust it if you were directing, choreographing to make it more of a hit?
Well, I think that like something Glenn and Patty really worked on with us as brides, particularly because I think they were very aware of kind of the chauvinistic issues with the show. The way that they kind of directed us, particularly 8 years in or whatever, when they've been working with the show, they really kind of wanted us to carry it home that like the brides were choosing the brothers. So even though we were kidnapped, it's almost like we wanted to be kidnapped a little bit. It's like they like rescued us from these like dorky suitors that we weren't interested in. So so I don't know if that helps it at all, but it definitely changed it for me, particularly feeling like anytime we were doing like the kidnapping scene or something like that, it became really fun and playful because it was almost like cat and mouse. Like it's like a flirting, it was like,
there you go. All right.
For the boys as much as the boys wanted to win over us, kind of a thing. So that was something that I found very interesting in like doing the show. I was like, oh, this is better. This is better than just being thrown over somebody's shoulder and taken to the cabin in the woods.
And being locked up.
And I think that's something that's possibly, it's not in the script. So you have to have a really skilled director and choreographer that can portray that just through the actors you have. And I would say also something that we worked on was just kind of give backstory to the brothers and how they turned out the way they turned out. And I believe they worked with our Adam, Brooke Moses, and was just sort of like, what happened to your parents? Why are you the father figure? And it was sort of developed that they were orphaned and he had to, out of necessity, raise his brothers, and he didn't know what he was doing. And so he has feelings of failing about that. And so he hasn't served his brothers well. And so trying to make them a little bit more sympathetic, not that what they do is okay, but also like what Ashley said, it's the girls are
finding different intentions.
And they're sort of, it's exciting, they're new. But yeah, there's that cat and mouse, like you said.
Yeah, and I think it's also important that Millie, like once she gets to the cabin, she really kind of goes, these boys don't know what the heck is acceptable and not acceptable. And she kind of tries to teach them a little. And so you do see the brothers grow and realize that what they've done is wrong. And they do get like a stern talking to from Millie after they've kidnapped the brides. And so there are some moments of, I guess you could say, redemption. It's like they are orphans and they weren't raised right. And then they kind of learn from their mistakes because they really respect Millie. And then they learn to respect the brides as well, kind of a thing.
Right. And in the American audience, I have found, especially with classic musicals or musicals that were from the golden age of movie musicals, we are willing, as a society in America, willing to forgive a lot of that kind of chauvinism to a certain extent. But at the same time, when it went to Broadway, it's still, people were like, that's cool and stuff, but like, I don't want to see that. And like, it obviously didn't do well, but regionally it's done great. And it really did very well in the UK. The minute it opened on the West End, people ate it up. Do you guys?
Multiple times too.
Multiple times.
It's been
and they did tours in the UK. I mean, it was always a big hit. Do you guys, I mean, you may not have super insight into this, but what do you think the difference is between the American audience and the British audience when it comes to this show specifically?
All I would guess is that they're kind of like, oh, those crazy Americans.
I was going to say the same thing. It's about Americans.
How wild and crazy they are. And it's just sort of, they're so removed from it. That wasn't their experience in their country. So they have that.
Right.
That's my
They can just enjoy the silliness.
Exactly.
instead of us sitting here being like, I don't know how comfortable I am with some of these lyrics that talk about.
Yeah, well, it's like facing, like for Americans, it's facing the history of our country and the way that things have been, and the things that have been wrong about the way that America was founded and stuff. And so, you know, as Americans, we sit there and go, it's a little cringeworthy because it's like you're looking in a mirror almost, where you go, oh, this is the history of my home. And the Brits, they're like, oh, those crazy Americans.
Well, and it's Oregon too. So we think of like Oregon, you know, Portland. It's supposed to be good people, but
Yeah.
But back then was rough times.
The Wild
Did
West.
anybody else play Oregon Trail when they were
yeah.
kids? And yeah, it's like the fact that
Dysentery.
those people even existed, you know, it's like they survived typhoid and snake bites, you know, getting to Oregon.
Did you guys talk about that in dramaturgy for your productions?
Not
We did kind of touch on it, like how you know, just the fact that there was even like a small town, and you know that the people who lived there were, you know, the people that lived in Oregon had crossed from the east to the west in a time where cars and, you know, air conditioning didn't exist. And, you know, so yeah, you definitely kind of touch on the fact that like the girls are not like wimpy, prissy girls. They're strong and confident and fighters as much as the boys are, kind of. Yeah, we did talk about that some.
Yeah, we did a lot of work on just pioneering skills and sort of tools that they would develop on their own. Because as we were building that opening number, Patty had us doing all this stuff where she was like, there's this thing they call tamping. And they would wrap these big wood planks with rope, and you would tamp the floor to make the floor of the cabin so it was almost like cement. So we did all this tamping and rhythm section to it.
Oh,
and it was
wow.
really big,
So cool.
but then it just got snipped and cut. And it just, you know, it was just, we'd create the whole opening number and do it one day, and then we'd come the next day and it would just be completely scrapped and we'd start over. So
Oh man,
they
that
have a lot of
sounds
really great
really
ideas and-
interesting.
yeah, a lot of historical things and trying to incorporate into
Man.
We need
in a
to
way
we
of
need to
dance movement. So
we need to get that cut opening number back in the show. Like with the wind
would be neat.
instruments and the tamping, like that that sounds
That sounds
fascinating.
really cool. Yeah.
It was
I
really
would be-
very exciting to be a part of that.
Well, and I read about your production as well. That they unlike the extravagant movie MGM orchestrations, yours was much more backwoodsy, right? A good speed.
Yes, all
Okay.
of our well, the good speed is so small. The stage
Right.
is about the size of a dime, and so they're doing this huge show, and yeah, so they really cut down the cast, and so a lot of our townspeople that weren't suitors were also played instruments. So we had a banjo player, we had people on different sort of historically appropriate instruments, fiddle, all that stuff that kind of accompanied the orchestra, and they were all very involved. So it was they tried to make it a little bit more organic and more true to life, but there was still the silliness of the show because that's just baked into it.
Bless your beautiful hide.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. So you'd have these really cool, authentic moments, and then you'd go right into those sort of more corny numbers. But the audience liked it, and I thought they did a really good job at trying to like play both those sides.
when you guys had such a fantastic cast too. I mean, Burke Moses, obviously, and then Jacqueline Pierre Donovan, who did it many places after Goodspeed. So she's like went on a road with it. Yeah.
Yeah. The work she did on that show was one of my favorite things to watch off stage every night.
Oh, I bet she is brilliant.
She's such a rich and deep performer, and she brought so many levels to Millie. It was a wonder to watch. So
I love to hear that. I love it when ladies who play ingenues really go for it and try and find a way to bring other dimensions to characters that were originally written very two-dimensional. You know, it's problems with the script normally. And when they really find ways to round out a character like that.
Oh yeah, she was in full command, full agency of herself, and she knew who Millie was, and it was fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're at, Kristina.
We're going to talk about the Muni.
Oh, the Muni. Okay, yeah. So the Muni, we had mentioned it previously, but it was supposed to happen last summer. It's going to open their new season. Like we said, the book, one of the book writers from the original Broadway production is working on a revision with a playwright in Oregon who's helping to dramaturg this post Me Too version of the show. They say that they're trying to bring it back to Broadway. So I think that given the fact that it's never been successful in New York, this could be exciting because the show is so popular. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Do you guys think that if they were to take something at the Muni and if it's very successful there, do you think it's time for a Broadway revival? Do you think it could maybe?
I would love to see a Broadway revival. I don't know. It's hard to know because I listened, to last week's episode, and y'all were kind of talking about how like the audience in New York is such a different audience than like across the states. And so, and obviously the New York theater scene is kind of reliant on tourism and stuff. And you had kind of touched on that, Kristina, last week. But so I'm not sure if it would do better or than last time, but I do think that it's a fun show. And I think what would be nice is, after a year like 2020 and, after the pandemic and life has been so hard, it's like there would be something kind of nice and refreshing to see a show like Seven Brides, I think, on Broadway, where it's just fun and lots of, women being thrown in the air and like fun dance numbers and songs. And, I think that there would be something appealing to an audience now, maybe more so than back in the 80s when it was on Broadway the first time.
Yeah, Trevor, did you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you think we're prime for a Seven Brides revival, or?
I personally would love to see one as well, but again, I do worry about the politics of the show. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like some people might be outgunning for it. I hope not, but I would love to see a revival because it is such a joyous show.
Well, I think that they need to bring back that really epic opening number you were just talking about, and that would add to the historical side of it without losing the heart of the show, which seems to be what you guys love about it and love being a part of. And I think what the audience obviously attaches to, right?
Right, and people love the movie so much.
They do.
Those roots run really deep. So I think people, it's part of their growing up experience. So
yeah.
Oh, thanks for the
Ooh, this is fun. Surprised to hear it was not adapted for Broadway until 1982. Us too, Greer. Sorry, I'm reading the comments, Trevor. Why do you think it took so long? It seems made for the stage and made for 1954 when the movie was released.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys have opinions on that? I know Kristina and I do, but do you think that they could have done it sooner? I mean, the movie came out in 1954, and then it didn't finally get to Broadway until 1982. That journey took a couple years. Like they had started working on it in the 70s, but that's still a big gap from when the movie came out, right?
What are your thoughts?
Well, you guys kind of touched on this on the podcast. I think it's just there was sort of people weren't into that. It was sort of frowned upon to sort of adapt movies to musicals to the stage at that time. So I think they just kind of waited and thought maybe when the 70s came around, it was maybe time. They thought they'd give it a shot, but they didn't. I don't think they adapted it very well, possibly, that they could have done a little bit more work on it. They kind of maybe just did a straight transfer.
Yeah, I agree with you, Trevor. I think that if they had taken the time to workshop it more, to really discover what the show could be on stage, all great adaptations. I mean, we talk about this Legally Blonde. Legally Blonde is a fantastic adaptation because it's its own show. Yes, it has aspects of the film that everybody loves and it follows the same story and the same characters, but they made it its own show, right? Yeah. It's telling its own story. And I agree. I think that the tour into the revival didn't quite find its way into what it could be by itself on stage. So would you guys do the show again? Like, assuming all your ligaments were happy and like your knees were still working, like would you do it again?
Like I just said, I have a baby now, and postpartum, Ashley is not quite ready for Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, but I would hope that one day I could do it again. I think if I ever did it again, I would want to do it when I'm older and could potentially be considered for Millie. I don't think I necessarily have it in me to be a bride ever again. I would love to be a bride again, but I don't know if physically I could keep up with the young girl these days. I think there is a younger generation of dancers that is ready to kill that challenge dance.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to do it again too, but I think that ship has sailed for me. I don't think anyone would cast me as a suitor, or maybe I could be one of the older brothers. But
I don't know, Trevor. I think you look.
Depends on how old Adam is, right? Like it depends on who they get.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and there's always that one brother who doesn't dance. There's always one brother who is like, yeah, I'm a mover. Yeah.
Sure.
I sing. I hold the bass down.
Not if Patty Colombo choreographed it.
Oh, okay. Note to self.
And like all the brothers dance pretty hard in Patty's version, but yes, in the movie there is always that like one guy that you're like, he's less of a dancer.
Right. Well, so speaking of that, say it comes back to Broadway. I actually don't know if Patty's involved with the Muni production. She might be. I didn't see that listed on their website. They didn't announce the creative team when I looked. But assuming that production does transfer to Broadway, and it's not Patty, because we know we love Patty, is there a choreographer in New York who you think would be a really good fit for this? Like, this is a question we got, by the way. So,
yeah,
YouTube.
Trevor, you're in New York. I'm gonna let you answer that one.
Well, I know Warren Carlyle is really big with the classic shows. He just, he did Hello Dolly, and I think he likes his tricks and he likes his big dance moves. So I think he would be a good possibility. Susan Stroman, I think, would be a nice option, especially she could also direct it and probably bring a little bit more of the female perspective to help balance that out. Geez. That's the two that are coming to my mind right now.
Okay.
I think both of those are strong choices. I worked with Warren on Havana, which was when he also directed. And so I think that this might be something where he's like, yeah, I'm going to direct and choreograph this on Broadway, double Tony. Thank you very much. That makes sense to me. But I think Stro would be a great choice as well.
I think a female director
would be a strong choice.
That would be
it
helps with the whole Me Too.
Female director who's involved with the adaptation. Like that's what I'm.
And all of the brides are gonna have legs up to their chests, and we'll make sure we have slits in the petticoats so we can see those epic legs. That's how it'll go.
I mean, Christopher Catelli could do all the flippy stuff, right?
Yeah, he's a good choice too. Mm-hmm.
Newsies, but I don't know if he's big on the ballet. I guess I didn't pay attention to Newsies that much to see if there was a lot of classical stuff other than.
Those are pretty technical dancers.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. I'm not a dancer, so
yeah, he'd be a good choice too. Yeah,
but Stroman, I think Susan Stroman, if you're watching, she's probably not watching, but. Susan Stroman, you should be the one to direct and choreograph this revival.
Yeah. We also have people like Peggy Hickey who could do it, who could come in and choreograph as well. And she loves a good trick. She loves a good flip.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of good options out there. And Seven Brides is a fantastic show. It's so much fun. So people are craving for that.
Agreed.
So last question. What are you guys up to in the age of COVID? Because we're all finding ways to be creative. Podcasts, obviously. Ashley, why don't you go ahead? I know you've got the baby, but what else are you doing?
Yes, I had a baby. No, I work for AMDA now, and I adjudicate admissions auditions. And so I'm kind of moving into that directing, teaching kind of side of things. And luckily that can be done a little bit easier on Zoom. So that's kind of most of my creative work has been kind of directing kids and the next generation, kind of helping them find their voice and figure out, helping guide them towards the career paths that they want. So that's creatively what I've been working on. And then personally been learning and figuring out how to be a good mom. Yeah.
Trevor, what have you been up to?
Well, New York's been pretty dry. It's there's not been a lot going on, and I kind of have been in a transitional phase anyway with my career and where I'm going. So still trying to figure that out, but yeah, just getting a lot of life stuff figured out. And
That is so important.
yeah,
rough.
I mean, some of those deep cuts on my to-do list, I'm getting finally checked off that have been there for about 5 years. So that feels good to get those things kind of done. As far as performing goes, I mean, I have just kind of been holed up, but I did get contacted by the Verdun Fosse Legacy, and I'm going to be doing their global Fosse Festival in mid-March. So that was a nice little.
Oh wow, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I'm getting to do the Manson Trio from Pippin, so that'll be exciting.
Oh,
how exciting.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's the Broadway Dance Center and the Verdun
cool.
Fosse Legacy. So yeah, that's hopefully something that'll just kind of get me launched into whatever 2021 has in store.
Who choreographs those? Who sets them, I guess I should say.
They have official reconstructors. So the Manson Trio is going to be led by Dana Moore.
Okay.
And she
Nice.
was, she was in Fosse. She was in Sweet Charity Revival back in the day. And yeah, so she's going to be reconstructing that. She'll teach it, and I'll be there demonstrating while she teaches it. So yeah.
Wow. That's going to be, what a wonderful, welcome back to the industry while we've all been out to lunch. Oh, that just sounds glorious.
Yeah, and it's for 6 days, and they're going to do these sessions. And so one session is, I guess, Manson Trio, and then it's international. So I'm going to be down at Broadway Dance Center at 10 o'clock at night so that the West Coast and Japan gets it, so
everybody gets their Fosse on.
Right.
Thank you so much for doing it for us West Coasters. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, that's all them. But yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be fun to get back in the room. So
I appreciate that.
Well, you did Fosse on tour too, right?
I did for about a year.
Well, that's
Yeah.
super exciting. So you're total Fosse. This is exciting.
It is sort of my bread and butter. I do love it.
Oh, cool. Well, I think we're out of time, you guys. Thank you both for joining us tonight. This was a lovely talk about Seven Brides. We're so glad that both of you were able to join us, Ashley and Trevor, and to see different perspectives, not only from different productions of the show, but from different sexes, because it's a show that's complicated. And so and it's also a show that performers love, which is so interesting because, people really enjoy being in it and performing the material. But it's like, what the book and the score have to say. So it's like, it's interesting to hear people talk about it. So thank you for joining us tonight. It was really lovely.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Wow, that was such an awesome conversation. And I learned so much about some of the exciting things that they've been doing to enhance and continue the legacy of the show. And that's really exciting. And we hope that the Muni production goes really, really well. We're sending you guys lots of love and light that it actually gets to happen.
Oh,
we
my
want
goodness.
live theater back.
Well, it's a giant outdoor amphitheater. So if there's ever a theater that could maybe happen with vaccines and things, it's probably the Muni. So
I'm all about it.
All about it. And they better put that opening number back in, because that was the most fascinating thing.
I am Muni. I need you to make it happen.
I'm going to go
I want to see this.
I'm going to go find a video. Don't know if it exists, but I'm going to find it. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you, everyone who joined us tonight. And make sure that you're following us. You're probably watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. That one person. Maybe there's two. But make sure to not only follow us there. We're on Instagram, Twitter. We're also on TikTok. Kind of. We're going to be more.
We're figuring it out, friends.
Figuring out how to be a TikTok star. It's difficult. But yeah, where are we now? Okay.
Yes, but please go follow, subscribe, leave us reviews. Also, please keep interacting with us on all of our socials. We are having so much fun chatting with you guys and geeking out with you, and hearing people's different points of views on these shows that we get to talk about. So please follow us on all of them. It's also where you find our clues.
Oh, our
For
clues,
each episode.
Right, and if you listen to the last episode, we gave clue number 1 for episode 4, because that's our next one. But clue number 2 comes out, and I'll just give you a hint. It's on Twitter tomorrow, but you have to check all of our socials for clues 2, 3, and 4. And then, of course, clue 5 we give at the beginning of the next episode before we just tell you what it is, right?
Really, it's just to give you one more chance to see if you can figure it out for yourself.
Because people are guessing. And we've had more comments tonight than we've had on any of these so far. So that's exciting.
Yeah, so thank you all for watching live with us. It's so exciting.
So exciting. So make sure to tune in next Tuesday, wherever you get podcast, for episode 4 of My Favorite Flop. Brand new musical we're talking about, and it'll be a really fun one because, like we said in our first clue, for Valentine's Day, it's a musical about communism. So
they're
really
both red.
A romantic subject.
You can also check out myfavoriteflop.com, which has our previous interviews with both Cortez Alexander and James Tabik. There it is. It's at the bottom of your screen. Because we fancy like that. Please go check it out. You can also find all of our previous episodes from the podcast. And we are so excited to see you back here on the 23rd for our next After the Bows.
Which will be all about episode 4, which you don't
all
know
about episode 4, which we can't tell you about yet because you got to guess from the clues.
Okay, bye.
Bye.